As I said to you, currency wars alone. Have you seen what China just did over the weekend? Did you see that story on their currency?
I don't believe I have.
Well, here it is, my friends. China announced that they would make the yuan, which is their currency, trade equally, or they would use it in equal trades with the Swiss franc. They're trying to replace the U.S. dollar with their currency because Obama has so debased the U.S. dollar's value that the U.S. dollar is no longer considered a stable currency by others in the world. Do you understand that? No, not really. Here is the headline right here. It's on the Drudge Report. Yuan moves to topple dollar. Yuan moves to topple dollar. Now, to the average person, no one knows what that means. But if you read the business report, it says China to allow direct conversion between their currency, the yuan, and the Swiss franc. What does that actually mean? It means that China took another step to boost the global usage of their paper currency, saying it will start direct trading with the Swiss franc as China pushes its case for reserve currency status at the International Monetary Fund. This is a major story. This is an important step against the United States of America. This shows us how Obama has juggled the books. You know, I don't know how many different ways to say it, but the debt is unsupportable in this country. And everyone in the world knows that the dollar is a bad bet. Yeah, we all love the dollar. You can still buy stuff with it. But this guy has so raised the debt that he's debased the value of the dollar, and there's no better way to show it than the value of real estate in high-end markets such as Los Angeles, New York, Miami, or other areas where people really want to live. That is probably a closer reflection of the actual value of the dollar than is the official valuation of the dollar. So when you see an apartment or a house in San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles raging out of control, you say, what are they, crazy? Who can afford this? Well, there's a lot of foreign buyers who can afford it. And that's because their currency is not pegged to a devalued United States currency. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUY-COI. The United States is in a soft war with China. Let me be very clear. And the first strike has been launched by China in the currency war, which they initiated by announcing what they announced today about their yuan. They'll soon announce, my estimation is, that their own gold-backed currency is stronger than the worthless paper that the U.S. Treasury keeps printing. What can happen next? With Obama constantly taunting Putin? Who knows? Who knows? A Russian-led severing of undersea fiber optic cables? It's possible. You'd never know about it. It would just that your grid would go out, and they would say it was a glitch. A cyber attack on U.S. infrastructure, including water delivery systems, power grid? Who knows? With the sorority in charge, what might happen? The government lies to you about everything. Let me give you a simple, down-to-earth example. Last week, a Muslim student at UC Merced stabbed 5 people. Cops killed this piece of garbage. Do you know that he was on a terror watch list? Do you know that that college was warned? And do you know that the police chief said that it was not terror-related? He was upset because of an exam. Do you realize that you're living in an age of total and absolute lies coming from every level of government, whether it be local, state, or federal? Do you understand any of that? Government zero. There's a meaning to the title. Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected thought, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Blue Monday, how I hate Blue Monday. Got to work like to sleep on deep. Here come Tuesday. Oh,
Domino,
Tuesday.
one of my favorites on the Savage Nation on another Blue Monday. I can't say it's particularly Blue Monday. I mean, the last I was on the air was last Wednesday, and many of you only get the show for 2 hours. I wouldn't say many, only a few stations take it for only 2. And I had some good news in the third hour, actually, that some of you heard about, which is that Government Zero was number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list for last week, which is a very big deal to me, and I want to thank you for patronizing the show and that book in particular. The message is what's important, really important. It's a walking billboard. The book is a walking billboard, and it has 40 actions to save America. In the last hour on this show, I jokingly said, I would like you to call and tell me what sentence or whatever from the book you'd like to challenge a liberal relative with, a quote, let's say, over Thanksgiving. And then I just was talking about make sure if you cook the book that you don't cook it at... And I said, what's the temperature? It's Fahrenheit 451, and it was written by Ray Bradbury. We had tons of calls on that. So please don't call again saying Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury, because I just did it. The bigger issues are the issues that I mentioned in the last hour. I'm going to bring in a new one right now. And that was the missile test off the coast of L.A. by this crazy Girl Scout pack that's running the U.S. military. Make no sense. Why are they doing things like this? Why are they launching a Trident missile off the coast of L.A., making planes divert their flight paths at LAX when they could have tested somewhere else in the middle of the Pacific? What do you think the Girl Scouts were trying to say, number one? Then the idiotic protest in Missouri with this juvenile list of demands issued to the university, which is right out of the Black Panthers of the 1960s. I've seen it before. We've done it. That was topic 2. And then I wanted to talk about this topic, if I can find the paperwork, and it's about the death penalty, because it's a topic we never talk about anymore. If you'll notice, this used to be a big topic in the 90s, and we haven't talked about death penalty. Are you for or against it? We're going to talk about that now, because California is proposing a new single drug method for executions. This is a fascinating story for 3 reasons. Listen to the story. California unveiled a new method for executing prisoners Friday, proposing a humane and dignified single drug injection protocol that could restart capital punishment after a nearly 10-year hiatus. We all know what the psychotics in the ACLU have done to our prisons and to the death penalty in particular. And you see, this regimen would replace a 3-chemical method that the state used to kill in the past. But that mixture was struck down in 2006 by a liberal whack job judge who said it could cause inhumane suffering if one of the drugs failed to work. That was such an outrage to the little girls who have been killed, the women who have been raped, the people who had their heads chopped off with axes by these murderers on death row. And so listen to this. You're never going to believe this story. They filed a lawsuit against the state of California, that is the crime victims' families, who favored the death penalty. They did turnaround. Turnabout is fair play. They hung the state by their own petard. They copied the ACLU. They sued the state, and they said, we're going to sue you because you're not invoking the death penalty. You're not following the law, as a matter of fact. We want it enforced. And so they helped develop a single drug protocol. And a settlement of this lawsuit brought by the Criminal Justice Legal Foundation has forced the state of California to devise a new lethal injection method by this month. However, it's not all good news, because the vermin in the ACLU are going to make sure that even this takes years before they are finally meeting their justice. Now, here's the question for the Savage Nation. And it's a simple question, but it's one that's worth talking about in our nation today. And that is, are you for or against the death penalty, and why? Now, I've heard the liberal argument, the type that Bernie Sanders style type of personality would have given, which is, it's better that 99 guilty men go free than one innocent man be punished. I've heard that since I was a child from the communists in the Bronx and Brooklyn and Queens. It's better that 99 guilty people go free than one innocent. You've heard the story. Yeah, well, that insanity has led to this rampant insanity of ISIS, for example. Would you rather have 99 of them go free than one of the innocent ISIS members be executed? No, of course not. So what are the arguments for the death penalty that I have? Well, they're very simple. It's a great deterrent. Despite what the left tells you, one of the reasons people are not afraid of the death penalty in America today is because it's rarely enacted. Not only is it not enacted often enough, but anyone who commits a violent crime of this nature understands that they're going to have 30 years of the greatest attention ever imagined by a prisoner in the history of the world. 30 years of lawyers coming and kissing their rings and asking them how they feel and asking them how they're treated and legal briefs and visits to attorneys. No, the death penalty is the best answer to murder. You see, murder is the willful deprivation of a victim's right to life. And the justice system's deprivation of the criminal's right to the same is a punishment which fits the most severe crime that can be committed. And I would argue that without capital punishment, there would be no response that is equal to the crimes of murder, and there would be no justice for the victims. Secondly, it's the only thing that criminals fear. If you study criminal minds, you'll find that they don't really fear prison, because they're treated very, very well in prison, by the way, especially those on death row. As I said to you, they're given extra privileges. They have lawyers coming in and out. They have people paying attention to them. Movies are written about them by the lunatics in Hollywood. But if you read about Ted Bundy's life in prison, waiting 9 years to be executed, you'll see that he exhausted every single legal point he as the lawyers could think of in an attempt to spare him execution. He defended himself in prison interviews by blaming pornography for causing his uncontrollable teenage libido and for causing him to think of women as objects and not humans. He attempted to have his death sentence commuted to life without parole by explaining that it was all pornography's fault. You see, none of them want to die. You don't know that. That's the one thing that a would-be murderer really fears, which is the death penalty. Point number 4, death penalty provides closure for victims. You understand that? It's also the ultimate warning. Capital punishment is the ultimate warning against all crimes. If a criminal knows that the justice system will not stop at putting him to death, then the system appears something to be feared. Now, he may not have any intention to kill anyone in the process of robbing them, but he'll think 3 times before using that gun if he knows that a crackpot liberal lawyer from NYU is not going to defend him and he's going to fry. Those are some of the arguments in favor of the death penalty. We can talk about that. We can talk about the missile launch. We can talk about the college football players going on strike and forcing a university president to resign. And you know my feeling on that is I would have told them, we're not going to have him resign. You have every right to protest, but if you don't perform your duties, we're going to dismiss you from the football team. It's that simple. If you're not going to show up for work for a number of days, they're going to find someone to take your job, aren't they? These are good topics. Very good topics for me. If you care to discuss them, you can join the conversation on the Savage Nation this Monday by calling 855-400-7282. WMAL, Eric, you're the first up in this hour. Go ahead, please.
Missouri case where I think that the administrators are reaping what they've sown. They've taught these kids to be radical liberals, and they want to release them into society, but the kids are starting to be radical liberal and turning against it.
Well, I don't know, radical liberal. These are college football players who are now thinking that they're God Almighty, running the university any way they want. That is the issue. Now, how did these college athletes get into university to begin with? Did they get in because they all had straight A's? I mean, were they accepted because of their great intelligence or because of their great sports prowess, or both? Does anyone know the answer? No answer to that question. 855-400-7282. KSFO Sid, you're calling on the missile launch over the weekend. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Dr. Savage. I just want to say that it's pretty extreme to go from taking a destroyer and flying it and going by the island to doing a nuclear missile launch, and maybe it just shows how